Well, welcome back everybody to Motorsport Manager and the Haas playthrough in the Fire mod. And we're on to the final race of the season at long last then. And it's been a pretty intense couple of last races. For Kevin Magnussen in particular, it's been a great couple of last races that's lifted us to 6th in the championship. And means that we just need to do the bare minimum of outscoring Toro Rosso, or even... Well, Toro Rosso have got to have an incredible race, to be honest, to overhaul a 7-point difference. And I think it's safe to say we've beaten McLaren and Renault now, which looked fairly impossible at the halfway stage of the season. So we've got to be pretty happy, really, and we can just go into this last race and enjoy it. And then next season we really need to start building on this and push the car forward, because we've really outperformed the car this year, and if we can make some good improvements next year, we've got a very realistic chance of going to the front of the midfield and challenging Force India and possibly even Red Bull, but let's not get carried away with ourselves. If we can finish 4th or 5th next year, it'll be a good achievement. But we've still got that one more race to go in Doha, so let's get on with it. And we'll see. I guess we'll just try the one-stop strategy again no matter what happens, because it's worked out so well so far the last couple of races, and Magnussen seems to have really become adept at pulling it off. That sounded, well, now that I pointed it out, it sounds weird. Anyway, let's move on. Right, pit crew. I guess Goldwave needs to be swapped out, and we could probably put Schwartzner in there. See if there's anyone good that's new on the board. I keep forgetting to get rid of some of these bottom feeders, which we need to do, and hopefully it will give us a slightly higher class of personnel that we can draw upon. I'm fairly sure we went through and did the contracts last time. I'm just going to check a few at random to make sure. Yeah, I think we went through and did them last time, so there's no problems there. Pit crew, understandably quite tired towards the end of the year. I don't know that there's many other changes I need to make. Obviously the two on the fixing slots are a little bit worse for wear, so we could probably swap Apple out for Gonzalez. I think the rest are okay. So very little to do really, because the car is obviously ready and there's no more parts coming in. We can obviously continue to try and improve the performance and the reliability where we can. If we switch suspension over to the front wing, performance, we've still got a little way to go in both the gearbox and the front wing, so we'll keep on at those, and we'll put let's put 3 on reliability, and we're just trying to get the parts as good as we can, because the way I understand it is your 2 best parts are the base car for next year, plus how you develop the parts and the components on top of that, as far as I know. If anyone can clarify that, because I'm useless at looking up information, because I really can't be bothered. And you guys are so great that you do it for me. That sounded really needy there, but you know what I mean. And quite often you guys come up with much better information than I could look up anyway, which is always appreciated. And hopefully this series will be finished in a bit less than the 6 seasons it's taken for the single-seater and 70 odd episodes, but we will see. Right, Calderon's contract is running down. We'll deal with that at the end of the season. One thing I will say about Calderon, obviously we wanted to bring in a young American driver as a reserve. Calderon is incredibly good. Actually, no, what am I talking about? I'm thinking of the other series. She's better at feedback than Leclerc, let's say that, but she's not great. No, it's the other female driver that we've got in the normal Motorsport Manager series. The feedback is ludicrously high compared to the rest of her skills, but that's not her. So I guess before we start, as there hasn't been much to do anyway, we can just take a look at those that we were scouting. And the Americans in particular, then, actually we can just hover over them, can't we, to find out. So we've got Cornelio there. Let's I always do this. Let's at least make an effort to pronounce people, shall we? So Cornerio, Menendez, Devetta, and Ferrucci. Now, Menendez has pretty good feedback. Menendez looks like the best talent at the moment there, but the only issue I've got with him is that he's probably not going to want to be a reserve driver, being a main driver in the endurance series. So it probably is going to be Ferrucci, but he's got terrible feedback, which doesn't really help with that situation, and he's going to need an awful lot of training. If we're not going to go down the American route, George Russell was someone I was thinking of, or Lando Norris. Both young drivers that we could pick up pretty cheap and could develop pretty well. And Carlos Sainz, I have been thinking about replacing Magnussen, but I think we're going to wait till the end of next year to do so, because we really want to concentrate on the facilities and the car itself next year. Giovinazzi's another possibility. We would have to pay out to get him out of his contract with Ferrari, is the only issue there. Mick Schumacher would be a great story. Don't know that he'd quite be ready yet. I'd probably say reserve would be either Schumacher, Russell, Norris, or Ferrucci. So if you guys leave your votes between those people, so Mick Schumacher, George Russell, Lando Norris, and Antonio Ferrucci, let me know which one you guys would like in the reserve slot, and the most votes will win. We'll try and sign them. Personally, my heart wants to go Ferrucci just purely because of my head even, just down that American route of trying to get an American driver into F1. My heart kind of says Mick Schumacher, just because Schumacher was my idol, and I'd love to be able to put his son through into Formula 1, even in a fantasy sense. But you guys let me know who you think we should have, and I'll top the votes if there's enough of them and make a decision next time. Because I definitely want to replace the reserve. We might not bring Sainz in till the end of next season, and then we'll make it a straight shootout between Leclerc and Magnussen next year. Winner takes all, I think, is the fairest way to do it. I know Leclerc's still young, but his first full season, I think that would be a good test for it. And, you know, Formula 1 is a performance thing. Even if you're a young driver, as people like Verstappen have shown, you can come in and show straight away how good you are and prove yourself to the team. So I think that would be a nice way of doing it, as a straight shootout between the pair of them next year. Anyway, we are ready to go then. So for the final race and the final time this season, I shall get practice underway and be back with you guys for qualifying. Okay, into qualifying we go then. I decided to try and... Well, I decided too late to go for medium and hard tyre running in practice, because I figured if we're doing so well on these one-stops, we may as well try and... We should have really tried to max out the hard tyre practice slot, but I tried it too late, and it meant I was sort of halfway between getting a slot in softs and hards. So we don't really have any boosts for qualifying, which might mean we finish a little bit lower than we would expect to. But again, I'd like both cars to be in the top 10. And yet again, we're sort of still evaluating Leclerc and see if he can get a bit closer to Magnussen in terms of the raw pace. Magnussen's obviously had the better strategy both times, and if the tyres allow it this time, I think we'll try a one-stop on both cars to give Leclerc a fair shot, equaling Magnussen. But as long as we get on the fringes or just in the top 10 with both cars, I'll be happy with qualifying. Considering our car should be right down the back still, with the McLarens and the Saubers, we've done really well in qualifying recently. So we can't really complain about that part of it. It's the race we struggled in, apart from the last couple of races, where we've obviously got the majority of our points. So it's a 46.8 for Magnussen, just 1/10 behind Leclerc at 46.9. Looking like we're going to be sort of just outside the top 10 when things shake out, looking at where cars are. We're just behind the Williams again. You've got Sainz up there in 7th in the Renault, is a good lap from him. The other Renault, Hulkenberg, just behind. As I say, I think we're nicely out of the way of Renault and McLaren. It's obviously Toro Rosso that we just need to make sure we stay ahead of in the race. And we've got Gasly 14th, Kvyat 17th. So we're looking okay on pace, and as expected, without that sort of 5-10% boost on the soft tyres that we normally have, we're a little bit lower down in 12th and 15th after the first runs, but hopefully we can maybe find a little improvement and get a bit closer to that top 10 in the second run. We need to get these guys out because it's actually a very long lap here. And we might be a little late. We should be okay. Should just be able to get them both round. Now, of course, we're in the desert. There were there was one guy in the comments that said that this is actually modelled on Abu Dhabi. And looking at that marina, they're probably right, but it was just the flag and the fact that Doha is right next to Bahrain that I thought it was Bahrain. But now looking at the track, he's quite right. This is Abu Dhabi. And of course in the desert it's normally very hot, but the last couple of seasons I've had here and in the Motorsport Manager single-seater playthrough, because it's at the end of the year, they seem to make it very cold, even though that's not how the desert works really. It's pretty much hot all the year round, hence it being a desert. But we may not struggle too bad with tyres in the race, so I'm hoping we can do a one-stop. But let's see how these second runs go then. Leclerc crosses the line, improves massively to a 46.3. Magnussen only improves to a 46.7. And Leclerc finally showing some real speed in qualifying. Right where Magnussen's been the last few races, up there in P8. So, is that just a bad lap for Magnussen, or is that just Leclerc that's pulled it out of the bag? I'm going to go with Leclerc pulling it out of the bag, because that's a cracking lap from him. Danny Kvyat, the other Toro Rosso, up there in 9th, and then the Renaults are 11th and 15th, and Pierre Gasly and the other Toro Rosso down there in 18th. So, yeah, good chance for Leclerc here to get some decent points and put one over on his teammate in preparation for the battle next year. So, as I said, if we can do a one-stop, if we can get away with it. That being said, I did mention before, this would blatantly be the race where a one-stop wasn't a good idea when we decided to put both cars on it. But we'll have a look at how long the tyres are projected to last and decide. Yeah, so 17 to 19, we should be able to do a one-stop again. So I think we're going to try it. We're going to put, we'll take a couple of laps out as usual with Leclerc. And we'll leave the same fuel load for Magnussen, because obviously he can push a bit harder. Also, 99% set up for Magnussen. Still can't get 100%. I'd swear it doesn't exist. I need a lot longer practice session. Maybe I'll get it at some point. But it does seem to be a stroke of luck. The problem is once it gets to excellent on everything, you don't really have a barometer of being able to judge it. Everything is perfect, but you don't know which one you got to move to get that 100%. But anyway, we will start both cars on the hard tyres then, and we will go for the one-stop once again. Just try and look after the tyres. And hopefully it will come off for us again. A few guys on the hard tyres then. But as per usual, if we can get to the front of that hard tyre running, which Leclerc obviously is on the start, and if Magnussen can get past Stroll, then we have a good chance of being able to be the front runners on a one-stop strategy. Oh, Leclerc's made a mistake into turn 1. He's run wide. He's managed to hold off a few cars as he came back onto the track. He's obviously managed to avoid damage there. But he's down in 17th. And just as I was about to say, a real chance for Leclerc to put in the kind of performance we've seen from Magnussen in the last couple of races. He bottles it into turn 1 then. That is a great shame, unfortunately. Right, we're going to go to high fuel mode with Magnussen, as he can probably push for a few more laps than Leclerc can. We'll go back to neutral with Leclerc to start saving fuel. Let's go on up to 2-speed then. And Magnussen already pressurising Kimi Raikkonen. And he must be on such a high at the moment, K-Mag. He has been superb the last couple of races, and he's become the master of pulling off this one-stop strategy. And yet again, we just have to be patient. We're behind 8 cars that are... Oh, we completely forgot about the boost. That's why Magnussen's getting swallowed up. Hopefully, he'll get the last little bit of deployment somewhere he can overtake back past Carlos Sainz. Just about gets round the outside before he runs out of boost then and regains that 9th place. That works out quite well. Oh, I thought Leclerc was 13th for a minute. He's 18th. Didn't work out too well then. Right, let's go back to neutral on the tyres. 17 degrees, a bit warmer than qualifying, but still very cold in comparison to some of the races we've had this season, as Magnussen dives down the inside of Raikkonen. But as I was saying, we are in a situation where we just have to stay ahead of Gasly with Magnussen, and if the one-stop strategy works out, he is in prime position to take advantage of it. Leclerc, meanwhile, really struggling down there in 18th. He's not much lower on tyre life, so I don't think he's locked up and got a flat spot or anything. He's purely just back in the traffic now. I'm going to find it hard going, especially with a McLaren on the soft tyres ahead of him. He needs to try and get past Van Dorn as quickly as possible, and he does that right as we prompt him to. Good job. Through he goes. And we're just in it for the long haul now, remember. We just got to make sure we manage the tyres correctly. They do seem to be cooling down a little bit. As we've done in previous races, I'm a little bit hesitant to go straight to push, because that tends to eat up the tyres more, even if they're at the right temperature. But they are getting cold. And I think that's just going to keep going down. So we'll go push a couple of laps, get them a little higher than normal, and then we can obviously back off and bring them back down if needs be. So around about lap 16 would be the optimal. We can potentially, according to the tyres, go as late as lap 19. And of course, the longer we go in the first stint, the better the tyres will be on the second. Raikkonen finally makes his way back past Magnussen then. Not really too worried about that. These are Red Bulls and Ferraris we're fighting. Kvyat is up in 6th though. That's a little bit worrying. And obviously still fighting to keep his place in that Toro Rosso team. One that he has long given up in the real world. So how's Leclerc doing? He's getting onto the back of Massa now. He's made himself about half a second. He's got past Massa actually, as young Charles. It's a good move from him, and we'll use that little bit of boost to get him clear of that group. And he's now onto the back of Ericsson, which he could do with dispatching quickly. If he can get past Ericsson, there's a small gap developing between Gasly, Hulkenberg, and then Stroll at the front of this group. So if we can get up to Stroll and pass, then Leclerc is back in this game. Magnussen, meanwhile, has got Sainz on his tail on the medium tyres then. Perez and Verstappen seem to be struggling badly on their tyres. Now we can start getting an indicator of whether these are going to go the distance then. So it looks like on lap 8 they will be just above 50%, which is just about right for doing 16 laps. Obviously we'll try and take the first set further than 16 if we can, but it's not the end of the world even if they're a bit short, because obviously the second stint will have less fuel and we'll be able to go further into the race anyway. So everything working out quite well at the moment. I'm going to use Magnussen's boost down the next main straight just to get him out of range of Sainz, because the last thing he needs is to get stuck behind a car on potentially better tyres. So if we just use this boost now and try and stretch that gap out a little bit. Didn't really work, but it was worth a go, I guess. Now, tyres really struggling to get up to temperature, which could be a good or a bad thing. We're on halfway through lap 8 and they're at 50%, so at the moment we're looking like we're going to be a little bit short of that 16 lap target. But as I say, we should be able to manage them better in the second stint. Right, we're going to go a bit higher fuel mode for Magnussen, burn some of that extra fuel he's gained. As the first round of pit stops take place then, and some of these soft tyre runners start to come in. So we got Ricciardo just behind us, so those front 3 or 4 cars have made a big gap on us, almost a pit stop, if Ricciardo has come out just behind us. And there's no need to fight this too hard from Magnussen. Because, yeah, I mean, I would love to get another incredible result, or sort of top 4 or 5, but at the end of the day, if Magnussen could just get a few solid points and secure himself in the top 10 for the Drivers' Championship and keep us above Toro Rosso, then our day's work is done. Leclerc struggling then to get past Massa. Verstappen pits and comes out just ahead of this little group. Where's the next sort of big straight? There's a little one here. Let's see if we can get him past Massa here. And it's enough to get him just alongside and ahead. And he's now back ahead of Massa. Ericsson is still, I feel, is the problem point at the moment. He's who's backing Leclerc into Massa. So we really need Leclerc to get past Ericsson, because this is hurting our race a lot here. Now, everybody that's coming in is going on to the medium tyres then, so they're all going to be doing a two-stop strategy. So if we can stretch out this one stop. We've destroyed the tyres again. I think we should have stayed on neutral. I really do. I think we're going to struggle to pull it off this time. I think we are going to struggle to do a one-stop this time around. Now, when do we jump ship and abandon? See, another 3 or 4 laps and we can potentially still pull this off. I think it's becoming more and more difficult for Leclerc though, because he's stuck in all this traffic. Magnussen is the one that's worrying me a bit more. I think we've fallen into that trap again. I mentioned it to myself in passing and still ignored it. That pushing even to bring the temperature up is not the best idea. We may as well have cold tyres and be on neutral. That seems to get us better distance than trying to keep them in that optimal range, which seems ridiculous, but apparently that's the way it works. Now we know we can probably take the hard tyres to 10, maybe even 5%. So I think we'll hold fast and try and stick to this one stop. But it's going to be tough on the second stint, there's no doubt about that. Now our tyres are far too cold here, but whether this is giving us better life doing it this way, I don't know. I think we'll try and go one more lap for Magnussen and 1 lap later for Leclerc. It will leave us with 18 laps and 17 laps apiece to do on the second set. So we'll just have to hope that we can make it. We'll know very soon in the stint if it's not possible, at which point we can probably just throw on the soft tyres and sprint to the finish. I feel it's worth giving it a go considering how well it's gone recently. And what do we do for the second stint? Do we believe that it is better to have the tyres really cold rather than pushing? Is that going to make them last longer? We don't know until we try. I think that's what we will try, because pushing definitely didn't seem to work and we were a couple of laps short. But then it could be the fuel as well, and we know this car is bad on its tyres. It's certainly a lot closer to the mark this time than the previous one stops have been. This is a lot tighter. So Magnussen back out then. He's going to get out ahead of that bunch of traffic then in P7, so that's a good result for him. It means he's got no immediate traffic and he can just get on with it and try and put a gap to himself and the rest of the field. And if he can do well enough at the beginning of this stint, he can possibly still pit at the end and come back out in 7th anyway, so it's not the end of the world, I think. Car looking okay for Leclerc, so he can come in this time around. We'll have 1 less lap to do. He has looked after the tyres a bit better than Magnussen. And he's nearly back on level terms in terms of fuel, so he is back into this. It looks like we can take these tyres down to 5%. We don't seem to be losing too much time. I'm just going to use Magnussen's boost down that long straight, as he's got quite a bit of it to use. So Leclerc is on 8% here, and he's still holding off Stroll and Massa behind. Actually, Stroll's pitted, so we've lost a lot of time to Stroll, stuck behind Ericsson. And Leclerc is going to come back out just ahead of the wily old fox Alonso, but behind Verline, unfortunately. I'm going to use a little bit of fuel this time, because we can always save it again. We cannot, just cannot afford another stint being stuck behind another Sauber. And we've got Alonso pressurising him here. And we might have to use the boost to defend rather than attack. So I think we'll use it here, because Alonso dives up the inside. Is the boost enough to get past the Sauber down the straight? Oh, Ericsson's got some as well. Leclerc does a brilliant move round the outside of turn 1 though, and makes that move stick. And he comes back. He's now up to 16th then, and can start to try and chase down Van Dorn and Perez. If we're on a 1-stop, we're in a very, very good place again. If we have to stop again, I feel Magnussen is still on for points no matter what. If he does a 1-stop or a 2-stop now, he's in the points, because everybody around him has got to stop again. As for Leclerc, if he has to 2-stop, he's out of this race. If he can hold on for a 1-stop, he should pick up some of these medium tyre runners ahead. And if he can get a move on now, then he might be able to catch a few of them by the end of the race. But he's not exactly... Well, that's Massa behind. That's Massa just come back out. Also on a 1-stop strategy then. So that was crucial, getting past Verline. It means that we're ahead of one of the Williams. But Massa is giving him a real hard time here. Right, let's get on board with resident favourite Kevin Magnussen then. Tyres are really, really cold. Do we... I just don't know what it's best to do here. So if they're cold, will they last longer? I don't know. I'm just going to have to take its word for it at the moment and keep them nice and cool. I guess the only way... We keep complaining about this. The only way we're going to find out is if we just leave it. If these tyres make it to the end, even though they're right at the bottom of the temperature range, then we know that that's okay to do. Yeah, he needs to push to get the temps back up, but... Okay, let's do it for a couple of laps, just get some temperature back in, and then we can go back to neutral if we need to. I feel... There's no real indicator of the wear rate or any kind of information that helps us out here. And that's the problem. There's nothing that tells us what's going on. Or whether we're above or below expectations. We have got this bar here, but I don't know that really shows us anything. I presume that's just how much tyre life is left, those arrows, but that's what we need, is like a wear rate per lap, which I guess we can count in percentages, but it'd be nice to have it as a handy tooltip or something. But we'll keep pushing and see if these temperatures come back up. They're so low that they're not doing anything at the moment. We'll go back to medium fuel with Magnussen and save a bit for the end. But as I say, Magnussen's in that lucky position that I think everybody ahead of him's got to stop, as Ricciardo's actually just made a second stop. And most people behind have got to make a second stop. So if we do run out of tyres, he can stop and still probably stay in that 7th place. The only one I'm worried about is Hulkenberg and maybe Sainz. But to be honest, if we're not going to get to the end on this, then Sainz isn't. Hulkenberg and Massa, who's actually got past Leclerc, are the only other two I think can get to the end on a 1-stop. So we'll see how Leclerc gets on. He's got a bit of fuel to use, so we may as well use that now. We'll pair that up with a bit of boost down the straight. See if we can get him back past Massa, but that Williams does seem to have more pace this afternoon. Yeah, it's enough to get him close but not past. Magnussen, meanwhile, is being reeled in by Kvyat behind, which I find surprising considering Kvyat's tyres are pretty done, but it's not a problem because he's definitely going to have to pit. Ocon has made his second stop then and has come out about 3 seconds behind. So that's the immediate danger, is going to be these guys coming back out. Bottas and Vettel should be safe. Raikkonen may well go behind us though. So Raikkonen might be another one we need to hold off from. So 8 laps to go, 43% on the gauge. And we've of course done about 10 laps so far, so it's possible. It's going to be tight, but we're just going to have faith in it here, I think. Because if we're going to go to soft tyres, we need to do so in the next lap or two. I don't see any point from Leclerc, because the only chance he's got of getting any kind of points is to stay out. Magnussen, we could risk it. Danny Kvyat is having a stunning race in that other Toro Rosso. That's what worries me. Because if Magnussen's tyres suddenly fall off a cliff right at the end and we lose any points, Kvyat could potentially be as high as 6th or 7th here. And that would be enough. Would it? 1, 2, 4, 6. He needs 6th. If we don't score, Kvyat needs 6th to jump us in the championship. And Gasly's only 12 as well, as Raikkonen does come out behind us then. Actually, no, Raikkonen's ahead now. I don't know what was going on there. Maybe he got past in the blink of an eye. I was watching the board rather than what's actually happening on track. Right, we've got quite a lot of boost for Magnussen, so we'll use that down the next straight. Tyres in a worrying place right now. Really worrying for Magnussen. I think Leclerc's going to be okay. Magnussen I'm a bit worried about. But Ocon hasn't reeled him in. I mean, that's going to get worse as we go on. Yeah, we're out of tyres. There's no way. Are they? We can run them to 5. This is getting dangerous now, because we're going to go out of the points if we stop again. I don't think he can make it. 5 laps to go. Yeah, I'm going to bail. I don't think we can do it. I don't want to run out of tyres right at the end. I want a chance to try and get back in the points, because if Kvyat is going to get 6th, which is possible, he'll be up to 7th once we've pitted. If Kvyat somehow gets past Ocon and we don't score any points because we run out of tyres, we're in trouble. So Magnussen, what gaps have I been watching? This pit lane must be unbelievably short. It does look like a very short pit lane. Have we got pit stop times anywhere? I can check them after the race. Because Magnussen was 2 seconds ahead of Ocon. He's come out 5 seconds behind. So these pit stops are taking about 7 seconds. Which is staggering. Right, let's go for it. Magnussen can catch him. I have no doubt about that. Leclerc has probably maximised his strategy now. He's up to 13th. He's still battling Massa. He's got a much quicker Toro Rosso in the form of Gasly behind. And he'll probably run out of tyres on about the last lap. So I might go back to neutral there. Magnussen, we know, can just absolutely charge till the end of the race. Let's go high. We used a bit too much fuel there. And he's got Kvyat ahead. Just 1.6 seconds now. He's not really able to bring that gap down though. Yet again, there's not much making sense in this game. We've got much fresher tyres. Has Kvyat got fuel? No, Kvyat's not even pushing. He's not even pushing on fuel, and we can't catch him. Although we're taking half a second out in the middle sector. Right, now here we go. We are closing up now. Magnussen's getting on top of whatever problem he had. It's the first sector. Sorry, it's the final straight that we're really struggling in comparison. We're losing about 3 or 4 tenths of a second, but we're gaining it all back in the middle and more. A couple more into the pits. Leclerc Was momentarily up to 11th. Hulkenberg, I think it's the way this pit exit works. That's why we keep looking like we're getting jumped as we start the final lap then. So Leclerc is probably going to run out of tyres. We can go to back up, I guess, to see if that makes any difference to the tyre life. He's actually slightly under on the fuel now, so we'll have to go low on everything just to get that over the line. Magnussen, I don't think there is anything we can do on this final lap to get him past. Leclerc is probably going to be passed by about 5 cars on this final lap because he's just short on tyre life, but at least we know we've made the right decision with Magnussen. He is unfortunately not going to be able to get past Kvyat no matter how quick he is in this middle sector. But I think we've averted what could have been a disaster there if we'd left him out. And I really didn't factor in the pit lane here. Magnussen's down, Leclerc's down to 1% now. He might be able to hold on if he's lucky. He's got some fuel to use and a bit of boost. As Magnussen crosses the line then in P8. He ends up 2.8 seconds behind Kvyat in the end. Probably because he used a bit too much tyre life. And Leclerc is going to hold on. He's on 0%. But it was judged to perfection. It's only P12 though. And to be honest, Leclerc has no one to blame but himself. He had that mistake into turn 1 today. And he looked after his tyres. Ow, just whacked myself on the headphones. Leclerc was much better on his tyres than Magnussen today. And if he hadn't made that mistake into turn 1, he most likely would have beaten Magnussen home and probably Kvyat. So it could have been a double points finish. It's a shame Leclerc made the mistake, but he's got to learn. Still impressive to be, I think, the only car to do that one-stop strategy then, and it just about judged to perfection. But he had a long way to come back and a lot of strong cars. The Williams were a pain in the backside that whole race. But we do manage to beat them home. The only one that got close was Massa. Even Massa had to stop 2 laps before the end to put on some soft tyres. So he can be proud of that result, even if it's no points available today. And that 8th place and the 4 points to Magnussen will mean that we are confirmed as P6 in the championship, which I'm very happy about. Magnussen also keeps himself in the top 10. That's a historic club now with the current scoring system. You are known as a very good driver if you get into the top 10. Lance Stroll is in the top 10 though, so maybe it's not always such a good read of the best drivers of the year. But still, he can be very proud of that, I'm sure. And I think it will be his first top 10. I think he was just outside the top 10 in his first season with McLaren, so I think that's his first top 10 drivers standing finish. So a great season for the Dane, and he's been a good team leader since Grosjean left. Grosjean still finishes with 7 more points than Leclerc then, showing that Leclerc's got a long way to go. And we brought him in a bit early, but it means he gets the experience of this season, and next year he can really give it a good go, hopefully with a bit of a better car at his disposal. We end up season 1 then in P6, somehow jumping from 9th to 6th in the last 3 races. And only 13 points off Williams in the end. Williams had a pretty rubbish finish to the season as well, so I think we can be very proud of that, and definitely something we can build on, and a nice bit of extra prize money that we weren't expecting as well for the car next year. And that is going to be it from an incredible season 1 then. Just before we do the wrapping up, and what I would like to hear from you guys before we start season 2, I just want to give a big thank you to everybody that has watched this season. Nice extra 3.6 in the bank then. I think this is the first series I've ever done in the history of the channel that has got over 100 views every single episode, and for that I'm eternally grateful, and I'm a little bit stunned that a small channel like me can can grow in the way it's done through just a single series. And I really hope you guys have been enjoying it and will continue to support it and are looking forward to Season 2. Lewis Hamilton then, as per in real life, is the 2016 Drivers' Champion. Mercedes also take home the Constructors. So, no change there. Might get a bit ahistorical next year, hopefully. As nobody likes to see the Mercedes kind of dominance that there's been. They really did dominate this season. Force India, nice 4th place for them. And apart from us, it's a pretty accurate finishing table compared to the 2016 one. Hopefully it'll be shaken up a bit next year anyway. So as we look ahead to Season 2 then, of course it will be a pre-season episode next time out. Just anybody that has developed a car in this mod in particular, in Formula 1, just let me know what you think we should be concentrating on. I'm hoping that we have enough money in the bank to just build the best car possible, but in the back of my mind, of course, I do want to upgrade the HQ as well. So if we have to make a slightly worse car just to improve our facilities next year, then I'll be happy to do so. But just let me know what you guys think we should do. If you don't think we're going to have enough money, is there one area of the car where you think we should concentrate on? One, you know, the engine supply, if you take a look at what we've got currently. So we've of course got the Ferrari engine at the moment, which we're paying an extortionate price for because we are a customer. I don't know the options will be given just yet. And then our fuel, chassis, brake and battery. Anybody that's played the mod before will probably know the options that I get offered. So you can obviously give me help and advice based on that. Or do you think we should hold back, make a either as good a car as this year, or try and save some money if we can, and then look into upgrading? You know, maybe sort of our simulator test track, something else to improve our car, and just make next year a building year. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know on the reserve that we mentioned at the beginning of the season as well, for a reserve driver for next year. And as always, thank you everybody for watching. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget that like button. Most episodes recently have been hitting over 10 likes as well, which is great. It's just breaking everything, every kind of record on this channel, this series, and it means the world. If you are new, then of course you can go back and watch, and in the meantime, until Season 2, there's plenty of other Motorsport Manager content on other playthroughs on the channel, and you can subscribe as well to keep up to date. So as always, thank you so much everybody for watching, and I'll see you again next time for Season number 2.